For 326 days, one of the most powerful warships ever built was away from home. The USS Gerald R. Ford sailed more than 57,000 nautical miles, operated thousands of aircraft, and spent nearly an entire year at sea. This is not science fiction. This is the United States Navy's newest aircraft carrier and its longest deployment yet. The USS Gerald R. Ford is a nuclear-powered supercarrier built around a completely new generation of technology. At roughly 1,092 feet long and weighing around 100,000 tons fully loaded, it can carry dozens of aircraft and operate far from American shores for months at a time. But what makes the Ford different is what happens beneath its massive flight deck. Instead of traditional steam catapults, the carrier uses the electromagnetic aircraft launch system, known as EMALS. It uses electromagnetic energy to launch aircraft from the deck with greater control and reduced stress on the aircraft. And while the technology is impressive, the real test is not building a carrier like this. The real test is keeping it operating at sea. In May 2025, the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group began what would become an extraordinary deployment. Over the next 326 days, the carrier and its strike group sailed across major regions of the world, supporting U.S. Navy operations and demonstrating American sea power. The deployment came during a period of intense global tension. The carrier operated in and around regions where the United States had major security interests, including the Mediterranean and Middle East. But the mission was not simply about fighting. Aircraft carriers like the Ford are designed to provide deterrence. Their presence sends a message. The United States can move a massive combat force across the ocean, establish air power almost anywhere, and remain on station for an extended period of time. During this deployment, the Ford Strike Group conducted thousands of aircraft launches and logged more than 5,700 flight hours. The carrier also completed 23 replenishments at sea. That means the ship could receive fuel, supplies, and other necessities without having to return to port. And that is one of the most important advantages of a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. The Ford's nuclear reactors provide the energy needed to keep the ship moving for years without refueling the reactors themselves. But the crew still has to keep the entire floating city running. Thousands of sailors work around the clock, maintaining aircraft, operating radar systems, managing weapons, controlling flight operations, repairing equipment, preparing food, and keeping the ship ready for whatever comes next. Every aircraft launch is carefully coordinated. Every landing has to be precise, and every hour at sea adds another challenge for the people living and working inside this enormous machine. After nearly 11 months away from home, the USS Gerald R. Ford finally returned to Naval Station Norfolk on May 16, 2026. It had traveled approximately 57,713 nautical miles. The deployment lasted 326 days, and it became the longest deployment in the history of the Gerald R. Ford class. But perhaps the most important lesson from this deployment is not the ship's size, its price, or even its technology. It is endurance. A carrier like the Ford is built to remain at sea, project American air power, support allies, and respond to crises thousands of miles from the United States. The USS Gerald R. Ford is more than a massive warship. It is a floating airfield, a nuclear-powered command center, and one of America's most powerful tools of naval deterrence. And after spending 326 days at sea, the question is no longer whether the Ford can handle a long deployment. Now the question is simple. Where will America's most advanced aircraft carrier go next?